It's the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV. Stop by West Bloomfield Town Hall June 14th and get your health in check at the 14th Annual Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair. Over 40 businesses, organizations, and vendors take the time to showcase healthy practices, tips, and resources for the community. Young or old, there's something for everyone and everybody. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesday, June 14th, the 14th Annual Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair. This community update from Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15. And by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
You're listening to your radio homes from the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Oakland County and Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Our top story comes from the Detroit Free Press's Brian Manzullo. It's the top story all across our local area here, as we're expecting, as many of you know, our local area is at an enhanced risk for severe weather this morning through the evening, with severe thunderstorms forecast and a potential for tornadic activity across southeastern Michigan today. What exactly is going to happen is going to depend on, of course, what happens. As nondescript as that is to say, it really is the situation that we are in. This morning's storm activity is the big key. How much moisture remains in the air? How quickly does that cold front with those increased temperatures move in following this morning through this early afternoon's storms? And then the pattern of this afternoon and evening's high winds. It's quite the mixed bag of circumstances, of information, of different weather patterns that could potentially happen today. And depending on how those ingredients of all that come together, of the winds, of the storm system this morning, of the temperature change, of the pressure in the air, of the incoming cold front, how all of that comes together will determine the severity of these storms, whether it's just some average run-of-the-mill seasonal thunderstorms that we tend to have, or a really significant wind, rain, storm, and possibly tornadic event, as has been forecast and has been seen so far with this storm system in other parts of the Midwest to some extent than others. Just as I'm saying that, I'm hearing the hard rain come through outside of our studio. I can hear it right outside our studio door, across the studio from me on the other side of this table where I used to do this show. Just behind that, outside those doors, it's starting to really rain hard here in West Bloomfield, where we originate our broadcast every single day. And that's really where that's supposed to happen. Sometime between 10:30 this morning and 12 noon is where the worst of this morning storm system, this early afternoon storm system, is expected to come through and last until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A really great spot for you to go for more information. And this is one of the spots that we're going, is weather.gov/DTX. Weather.gov/DTX. A great place to go for more information. That's going to give you information for really the greater Detroit area. But if you go to the top of that page and you put in the zip code, so for example, our studio here in West Bloomfield, its zip code is 48323. I put that in. It automatically brings up a page that says hazardous weather conditions. You can click on that, find more information on that. A tornado watch is in effect for our local area from 8:40 a.m. today until 4 p.m. this afternoon, and it is affecting several areas of our state. 35 counties in lower Michigan are under a tornado watch until 4 p.m. today. Not just Oakland County, but that also includes a number of our neighboring counties as well. Wayne County, part of this tornado watch until 4 p.m. Wayne County, part of this. Saginaw County, Macomb County, a part of this warning as well. Washtenaw County, Livingston County, and it also covers a number of different major metropolitan areas such as Detroit, Lansing, Flint, Jackson, Saginaw, Port Huron, and so much more are covered by this tornado watch, by this hazardous weather outlook that was reported. An update as early this morning as 5 a.m. for the hazardous weather outlook said and I'm just going to read this verbatim from this page right in front of me here. A powerful low pressure system will lift into the western Great Lakes, bringing a warm and humid air mass preceding a cold front. So before a cold front. This will fuel numerous to widespread thunderstorms late this morning through the early afternoon. That's what I was saying, that 10:30, 11 o'clock a.m. time period until around 3 to 4 p.m. in the afternoons, where we're expecting the worst of these early storms. We're expecting two periods of storms. There's about 1 to 2 hours of not necessarily latency, but maybe a little less power in these storm systems in the afternoon going into the evening, when we will expect more storms that really are going to depend on the circumstances left behind from that first part of the storm system to determine the severity of what's going to go on tonight. The potential exists for significant severe weather development. This again per the National Weather Service, serving the Detroit and Pontiac area, their office out of White Lake, Michigan. We did reach out to them for contact on today's storm, and they did respond saying that they were not going to be able to join us on today's program because they're so hard at work to cover the storm, to try to figure out these circumstances with the instability of the system, with the unpredictability of the system that's here, and all the different circumstances that are going to come into play for forecasts later on in the day. They weren't going to have the amount of time to take away from that work to speak to us today. They did, however, say, go to weather.gov, keep updated on this. We're going to do our best to keep those updated minute by minute, as close as we can. Any updates we're going to have, we're going to put up there as soon as possible. Weather.gov, we will get a link to that on our homepage as soon as possible. I personally will do that following our show at 11 o'clock. I expect that up there by 11:15 on our front page. Thunderstorms expected today, severe thunderstorms expected today. Click here for more information. That will be on our homepage by 11:15. If not, call our main line by finding our number on the website. Ask for Tyler and yell as loud as you can into that phone. I will answer. Continuing on, the potential exists for significant severe weather development, including tornadoes and hail greater than 1 inch in diameter and damaging winds all across southeast Michigan. Numerous clusters of storms will be moving southwest to northeast at around 50 to 60 miles per hour, with the main window for severe weather, again, as I had mentioned, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. per the National Weather Service. And that all can be found, all this information can be found by going to weather.gov. Just go to weather.gov and put in your zip code. In this case, I put in 48323, and it gives that hazardous weather outlook for our local area, as well as that tornado watch information. All of that can be found for your local area. Even if you're just driving through and you're listening to us on 89.3 Lakes FM, you're listening to us on 88.1 FM, The Biff out of Bloomfield Hills. Whether you're listening to us on the radio, you're watching us at home, and maybe you're going to a different area of the state today. Maybe you're going to East Lansing, pick up your kids at Michigan State for an early weekend because of these storms that are coming home to get out of the area for the storms or bring them some supplies. Same thing if you're going to Ann Arbor, to the University of Michigan, or over the Rochester Hills, Oakland University, and for your kids. Or you're in the local area going to work. Maybe you're traveling for an early weekend or for work purposes or for family purposes or recreation. This is all information you're going to need. It's going to affect your commute today. It's going to affect your entire day. These thunderstorms are going to delay you on the roads because there's also potential for flooding, even flooding from previous weather activity, from previous rain and other precip activity throughout the week already up to this point, coupled with a rash of rain throughout the morning from these thunderstorms into the afternoon, rain this evening. That's going to affect you as well. You're going to want these updates straight from these sources at the National Weather Services. National Weather Service is going to have that information. Weather.gov is the place to go for all of that. So we got a packed show ahead today. We'll get to more of these headlines later on in the program. But again, can't stress it enough. Weather.gov, the place to go for information. We will put a link on our homepage as soon as we possibly can. I'll try to do that between some of our breaks here in today's edition of the Megacast. But otherwise, we will do that immediately after the show, get you a link that goes directly to that 48323 zip code for our local area, where we originate our broadcast in the greater West Bloomfield community from the National Weather Service's Detroit Pontiac office. And that website, again, top left corner, you can put in your zip code. So whether you're in our area, you're in the different part of Metro Detroit, you're in the city of, you're in Lansing, Flint, Jackson, wherever, you can get those updates for your zip code or zip codes you're going to as well at weather.gov. And find these headlines with more information on this storm as well as other news making headlines today, which we'll get to in a little bit and continue on after this break here on the Megacast. Stay tuned. We got a lot coming up next. We'll talk about some fun opening day activity you can have before the Detroit Tigers kick off their home schedule tomorrow against the Boston Red Sox. You'll be able to have some fun at their old stomping grounds at the Corner Ballpark. Detroit P.A.L's Fred Hunter joins us next to talk about that and more. Stay tuned. This is the Megacast.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Stay up to date with us and all of our partnering stations joining us every single day live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. during the week, as well as live to tape during the week and for replays in the evenings and through the weekends as well. CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast. Joining us now on the program is the Executive Director of Detroit P.A.L, or the Detroit Police Athletic League, Fred Hunter. They got some great activities coming up for opening day in downtown Detroit and as well throughout the year with programs also. Fred, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good. Thank you, Tyler. Really glad to be on the show.
Yeah, glad to have you on the show again to talk about Detroit P.A.L. You do such great work all throughout the year to engage particularly kids with a whole lot of fun. However, tomorrow, the fun is going to be all day long in downtown Detroit. It's one of the great holidays in our local area. Detroit Tigers opening day. They'll take on the Boston Red Sox late tomorrow. But before that happens, all morning long, some fun at the corner ballpark with Detroit P.A.L. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity for the old historic Tiger Stadium. So many memories that people have had. They've been playing baseball there since the late 1800s. So we're opening up the ballpark. We're inviting people to swing on by and swing for the fences. So 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., right here in Corktown with all the restaurants and businesses, we'll have a fun fundraiser. So $20 gives anyone, all ages, the opportunity to, step on the ball field where Trammell, Whitaker, and so many played, and get 10 swings for the fences. And if you hit it out, we've got some cool prizes there. So that's just a quick overview, Tyler.
That's 8 a.m. to 12 noon, $20 per person for 10 pitches at the old corner ballpark at the old Tiger Stadium. And you can find a lot more information on this by going to DetroitP.AL.org/events. And just tell us about how this event kind of came together, because obviously there's so much going on in the city of Detroit, especially on opening day for Detroit Tigers baseball. So what led to this ultimately as a way to bring people into the old corner ballpark, a great experience just in that altogether, but also to have this sort of activity and bring some awareness to your organization?
Yeah, well, we're a sports organization, so it's always about teamwork. So, for us, it's, what things can we add value to, and people swung by, come by the location before, but, kind of looking in, we said, man, we need to open things up. And we got a wonderful board member, Debbie Kenyon, and the Odyssey radio stations who said, wow, this would be a great time to activate, the location. So, not only is it on the ball field, but Odyssey is going to have WOMC, that'll be broadcasting live. WWJ Traffic will be broadcasting live. WYCD, the country station, will be broadcasting live here. So we want to make it a really fun day for people to, come on in for those 4 hours and, enjoy the historical elements we have, with a lot of memories for the stadium. But it came about just the creativity and how can we make something special on what's a tremendous, day for the city and for the community.
We're joined by Fred Hunter, the Executive Director of the Detroit Police Athletic League, or Detroit P.A.L. On today's edition of the Megacast, you can learn more about their Swing for the Fences event at the Old Corner Ballpark tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. until 12 noon, just before the Tigers take on the Boston Red Sox to kick off their home schedule for the season at Comerica Park, following what's been a couple of really great days against the defending champion Houston Astros. So plenty of excitement surrounding opening day, and hey, you can get on base yourself at the Old Corner Ballpark just before the game on Thursday morning. Some great fun on a great day for baseball in Detroit. Fred, this is obviously a fundraiser for your organization. You do such great work all throughout the year to inspire kids and families through sports in the Detroit area. Tell us about some of those programs that are ultimately going to be supported by Swing for the Fences.
Yeah, that's it, Tyler. This is an opportunity where anyone can support the work that we're doing here in Detroit. So it's Detroit Police Athletic League, 54-year history of really bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community, and we do it by serving kids. So Detroit P.A.L. has 12 different sports. We've got tremendous youth enrichment programs, from STEM to literacy to coding as well. But how cool for sports fans to support what we do for sports. So we've got diamond sports, baseball, softball, and t-ball. And we're serving about 10,000 kids every year, helping youth find their greatness, which is our mission. So through sports, you learn so many wonderful things about life lessons, which are transferable. And we're excited about the youth that we're serving now and how that translates to who Detroit can be and what Detroit can be, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
So who are these programs available to? Obviously, a lot of this is happening in the city of Detroit. You have a base at the corner ballpark, too, for a lot of these activities. But is it open to people outside of Detroit also?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no residency requirement. So about 80% of the youth that we serve have Detroit addresses, but, we open it up. We've got youth from, inner suburbs, outer suburbs, coming in for our programs because we just believe in quality, doing quality Tiny Tigers programs, quality basketball programs. And we also, Tyler, have a Girls Changing the Game initiative because we know that the benefits of sports for young ladies sometimes even greater than what you'll see for young men. So we've got volleyball, soccer, tremendous sports, related there. So our goal is to serve the community, and most of our programming happens in Detroit, but it is something that's available for all.
So ultimately, why sports? There's so many different ways to bridge those gaps between law enforcement and the community, certainly between people in the Detroit community and surrounding areas. Why ultimately did the Detroit Police Athletic League go on form to bridge those gaps through sport?
Yeah, there's something unique about sport. When you think about the city of Detroit and you think about our professional teams, you think about the college teams, sports is throughout our entire society. And, worldwide, you look at soccer and, World Cup and Olympics and how important sports is. And for us, it's what you can do, how youth can develop in sports. We have something which is called the GREAT model, GREAT. So things you learn from sports are goal setting, resilience, embracing a healthy lifestyle, accountability, and teamwork. And you learn these in sports, but they're transferable to what you need to do in school, for college, for careers, for entrepreneurial endeavors. So the lessons and principles in sports are important, but we also have amazing mentors and coaches that we train in youth development principles, how children can learn these lessons and then transfer them to life. So the impact, not just from sports, but what sports teaches you, we feel is extremely important for the future and the legacy of our city.
You can find more information on ways you and your kids can participate in Detroit P.A.L programs and find out other ways you can support them as well by visiting DetroitP.AL.org, DetroitP.AL.org for more information, including on tomorrow's event, Thursday, April 6th, 8 a.m. to 12 noon at the Corner Ballpark. It'll finish just about an hour or so before the Tigers' first pitch against the Boston Red Sox on opening day. 8 a.m. to 12 noon, $20 donation per person gets you 10 swings at the bat at the Old Corner Ballpark. And I also hear, Fred, that there's a special prize if you're able to swing for the fences and take it out of the park.
Yeah, we've got a ground from the mound. So we actually have a ground that came from the historic Tiger Stadium. So if someone's able to hit that over the fence, we got that, memorabilia authenticated, which is available. And we want to make things available, even if you want to come out and just be a part of it. We've got, register to win, where you can give any size donation and then have opportunity to, win some other Tiger memorabilia. We actually have some tickets which are available, so you can either upgrade or, get tickets for the opening day game. So we want to make it something that's fun for people to come out and enjoy the elements, but also have a chance to win and make it a really special day.
Yeah, and it's a really special time too because it's opening day. There's a lot of fun downtown. Everyone's excited about baseball. They want to get on the diamond. That's the whole thing. You're dreaming of being in Tiger Stadium, swinging for the Detroit Tigers, and you get a chance. In this case, 10 pitches. That theoretically, in some situations, could be an entire half inning of baseball that you get just yourself at the Corner Ballpark. And on top of all that, Fred, you get to support a great cause.
Yeah, it's fun fundraising. So knowing that the dollars that you're paying to help donate are actually helping what we're doing to serve young people. So home plate's in the same plate, the same fence dimensions as the old Tiger Stadium. Flagpole is still there, and the flag will be waving well. So it's a wonderful opportunity to bring the community together and support the good work that we're doing.
Swing for the Fences at the Corner Ballpark Thursday morning, 8 a.m. until 12 noon, just before the Tigers and the Boston Red Sox at opening day at Comerica Park. You can find more information about ways you can participate in Swing for the Fences and other Detroit P.A.L programs and events by visiting DetroitP.AL.org, DetroitP.AL.org. Joining us on the program is their executive director, Fred Hunter, on today's edition of the Megacast. Fred, beyond Swing for the Fences and events like this, what are some other ways that people, if they want to give their time to your organization, other volunteer opportunities available?
Yeah, we operate on volunteers. So, our staff is about 20, but we have 1,000 volunteers, coaches that are helping out our program and to do what we need to get done. And we are open for the community to come out support. So, at our website, DetroitP.A.L.org, there's ways to, identify, sports you like to help with, strengths, skills that you have. We believe in the time, your talent, and your treasure, can help to support the organization. So we'd love for people to volunteer, learn more about the organization, and see how you can help us with what we're doing in the city.
All that information and more can be found at DetroitP.A.L.org. Fred, before we let you go, anything else that we should know about Swing for the Fences or other fun and intrigue coming up from Detroit P.A.L.?
Yeah, it's just a great time. The interest from parents is just growing and the demand is even stronger. So, coming out and supporting this event is something which is really special, and supporting the organization because really great things are happening in the community. So we love to tell the story and continue to help youth find their greatness.
You can participate in Swing for the Fences Thursday morning at the Corner Ballpark just before the Tigers take on the Boston Red Sox at Comerica to kick off their home schedule for the 2023 baseball season. Fred, thank you so much for joining us.
Good. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate having you join us as well. More information on Detroit P.A.L's events such as Swing for the Fences tomorrow on opening day and beyond can be found at DetroitP.A.L.org. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, beyond the storm system coming through today, there's plenty of other news and information making headlines today. We'll explore that on our website and more. Plus, Dave Dulio joins us at the bottom of the program today to talk about the latest in Michigan and U.S. politics. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and find more information on our programs, including all of our full shows and each individual segment on demand, and find all of our partnering stations links to their websites so you can explore great, original, local programming in your community on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. Let's go back now to our local news page at civiccentertv.com, where there's plenty making news today beyond, of course, the thunderstorm system coming through. Again, we'll put a link on our homepage so that you can go straight to civiccentertv.com today and click through and find information on today's storm updated from the National Weather Service, just a couple of clicks away all day long. We'll have that up for you as soon as we possibly can. I'll try to do that either between our next break here on the Megacast, or at the very least immediately after our show at about 11 o'clock, between that and about 11:15. Get that link on our website. And in the meantime, I encourage you for updates on the storm system coming through, what you need to know about how the conditions are changing, how the severe weather may be affecting us in the near future today, as well as hours away from us in the afternoon and the evening. Weather.gov/ETX for the Detroit area. And while you're on weather.gov, you can put in your zip code at the top left corner of that page and get information for your specific hyper-local area as well. Weather.gov is the place to go for that. That's the National Weather Service's website. And for local information, weather.gov/Detroit or weather.gov/DTX will get you information directly from our local office, the local branch of the Detroit Pontiac office, located here in Oakland County in White Lake Township. Also making headlines today on our local news page from MLive's John Agar, the last of 5 students hospitalized in the wake of the February 13th mass shooting at Michigan State University was released from the hospital yesterday, per a tweet from the MSU Police and Public Safety Department. That means all 5 living gunshot victims are now out of the Sparrow Hospital system and have returned home to their families, although their treatment for their wounds, injuries, and ailments related to the shooting are not necessarily over. The student released from the hospital yesterday was recently listed in critical but stable condition and was not identified by either Sparrow nor the MSU Police Department. Upon their release, as has been the case with the entire group of the injured students along the way. Others have been identified to the world through social media, through their families and other means, including Nate Stately, a junior at MSU, international student John Howe, as well as Guadalupe Wapila Perez, who via her GoFundMe page sent the following message on March 23rd to the MSU community, to the greater community, as well as to her fellow victims from the February 13th mass shooting, saying, quote, "I remember the sound of the first bullet shot. I remember calling my mom, afraid, so afraid that would be the last time I talked to her. For her, a call she never expected but always feared receiving. I don't remember exactly when I got shot, but I remember a classmate holding their shirt to my abdomen area. I can't remember the pain of my wounds, but I can remember the pain I felt in my heart seeing this horrible tragedy unfold before me. I remember the rush to the hospital, feeling a deep sense of loneliness and fear. To my classmates, the 4 other survivors, I hold you all in my heart. There is nothing that can change what we experienced together on that night, but hearing about your recoveries inspires mine. I hope and pray for better days to come and promise to stand in solidarity in the ongoing conversation around gun violence in schools. No one should ever have to live through this," and closed quote. The shooting at Michigan State University, of course, took the lives of 3 students, 2 at Berkey Hall and 1 at the MSU Union. Those at Berkey Hall were Ariel Anderson, a 19-year-old, as well as 20-year-old Alexandria Werner. And then at the MSU Union shortly after is where Brian Frazier, a 20-year-old, also from our local area. All 3 of these victims killed that night were from our local area here in southeastern Michigan. Of course, it also left 5 students hospitalized. All 5 of those students hospitalized were in that classroom in Berkey Hall on that evening. The only immediate gunshot wound victim at the MSU Union was Brian Frazier, who was unfortunately killed in the rampage at Michigan State on February 13th. Other information is on our local news page. There's an article from earlier on this week about the continued investigation into the shooting at Michigan State University, particularly the backstory on the shooter himself, the 43-year-old man who perpetrated this shooting at MSU a little over a month ago and ultimately took his life after being confronted just about 10 minutes before midnight on February 13th that evening by police in Lansing. To try and find more information about what led to this act of violence on Michigan State's campus, who he may have been in contact with beforehand, where he was leading up to that shooting, if he went to any place else on campus. And that article from another resource in our local community is also on our website this week, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. Additionally, making headlines today on our local news page, you can find our next article comes from MLive Media Group, and they did a great job in this one as well. Bridge Michigan's Isabel Lohman was with this article. An update from the University of Michigan, where graduate students striking since last week continued their labor movement this week after a request from the university's Board of Regents for a court order to curb the work stoppage was struck down on Tuesday. Washtenaw County Circuit Court Judge Carol Kunke opted to turn down the preliminary injunction to not institute a preliminary injunction, stating, quote, "I don't agree that the university has demonstrated irreparable harm. I will give the university the opportunity to do that by way of an evidentiary hearing, end closed quote. In response to the ruling, Graduate Student Union Contract Committee Chairperson Amir Fleischman said the graduate workers were feeling, quote, pretty good, end quote, about their situation, and the university did not make immediate comment to Bridge, Michigan upon their request before publishing this article. Despite this, the university's officials continue to stress the importance of ending this work stoppage as soon as possible in order to preserve the continuity of education at U of M, emphasizing the, quote, direness of the situation, end closed quote. Per this article directly quoted, there are about 2,200 graduate student instructors and graduate student staff assistants who teach or co-teach a class at the university, they said in court filings. The union has 1,315 members from both of those classifications. Finally, making headlines today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. This article is from MLive's Dylan Getz. You may remember recently on the Megacast, last few weeks, we had a discussion about Goodrich High School student Eric Kilburn, whose massive shoe size prompted a lovely response from Under Armour and others to provide him with some custom kicks that would comfortably fit his larger-than-life feet. Well, the big shoe guy himself has now joined in. The Diesel, the Shaq This himself, the toast of TNT's NBA coverage, and NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal has stepped in to help the 14-year-old, speaking to him on the phone last week and sending him 5 pairs of Reebok sneakers originally made for the Lakers and Magic legend. Shaq had Reebok overnight a package, or Shaqage, as the article quips, of 5 pairs of size 22 shoes to the 14-year-old Kilburn from Goodrich High School. Said Kilburn's mom, Rebecca, on her son's excitement about the gift, quote, what kid doesn't want to say that they are wearing Shaquille O'Neal's shoes? He would squeeze those feet in there and happily wear them, end closed quote. And that's exactly what Eric is doing. The former basketball star said he was in the same boat as Eric Kilburn when he was his age, a larger than average child himself when Shaquille O'Neal was young. He also struggled to find shoes that fit the size of his feet comfortably. And Kilburn, in a previous article we had on this on our local news page, and that you can learn more information and go through again in past episodes of the Megacast on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. He had said, look, he's been wearing larger sized shoes, but they're not the right fit. They're not the right size, not the right length for his feet. And so he has to squeeze into those shoes, and it's extremely uncomfortable. It's tough for him to walk. It's tough for him to stand. It's tough for him to be mobile. And this is a kid that just wants to be like you and I when we were 14 years old, walking around the class, talking to our friends, being able to comfortably be ourselves each and every day. And so that is where Under Armour came in a few weeks ago, as was reported by the Flint Journal through MLive. That's their Flint area specific publication from MLive that has hosted these 2 articles. This is really a great story that's expanded. It's gotten a lot of local coverage, a lot of statewide coverage, and for good reason. Such a great show of generosity, previously from Under Armour and now from Shaquille O'Neal. And this is nothing new from Shaq. He has shown this kind of generosity in a number of different communities that he's been involved in or even not involved in, like Flint and the state of Michigan, really, along his career. Giving back to the community has been something he's really emphasized throughout his life, and it's often done it quite quietly. In this case, it's getting that notoriety because of the situation being so unique and such an interesting story. So obviously great news for the Goodrich High School 14-year-old student Eric Kilburn, who received these shoes not only from Under Armour, but now 5 pairs of Shaq's own shoes himself are now going to Eric Kilburn Jr. so he can wear those size 22 sneakers and walk around comfortably and be a 14-year-old doing what 14-year-olds do, running around the classroom, playing sports, just living a normal life and doing what you and I do every single day in our shoes, comfortably walking around and navigating about our day. It's great to see that this is happening in our community, and a huge shout out to Shaquille O'Neal too for this show of generosity, and to Eric Kilburn for his perseverance through all these years of dealing with this, and now finally that's paying off. He's getting the recognition he deserves for sticking to it and having a positive attitude and showing what that brings ultimately in life. All these stories, these full headlines and these articles, including this great story from MLive's Flint Journal, can be found on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. You can just click through to the link or click through on the picture that's associated with these articles. It will take you directly to those article pages in a new tab so you can read in full, read their supporting materials. And of course, if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe to these publications and support journalism across our local area and throughout the state of Michigan. Also on our local news page, you can always find at the top of the page links to public health information from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. Of course, the show was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's always something more to learn about COVID-19, about other public health matters. And it obviously is big news each and every day in our local area. So keep up to date from the Oakland County Health Division, the state's Department of Health and Human Services, the CDC, and beyond, and as well as a bunch of other news stories on the public health side and not on the public health side by going to our local news page on civiccentertv.com. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, Dave Dulio from Oakland University will join us to talk about a very big week in the political world, both on the U.S. side, but also with implications right here in the state of Michigan for the near future. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. Stop by West Bloomfield Town Hall June 14th and get your health in check at the 14th Annual Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair. Over 40 businesses, organizations, and vendors take the time to showcase healthy practices, tips, and resources for the community. Young or old, there's something for everyone and everybody. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesday, June 14th, the 14th Annual Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair. This community update from Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling. When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and stay up to date with all of our full episodes and each individual segment by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the program, as he does each and every week, to talk about the latest in Michigan and U.S. politics, is Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University, where he also serves as their director of their Center for Civic Engagement. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, Tyler, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Any good stories this week in politics?
I was wondering this morning, boy, what are Tyler and I going to talk about this, on the show today? I can't think of where to start.
Yeah, let's start as we always do. Seem to start with Donald Trump. Of course, this week arraigned just yesterday in Manhattan, New York, under the Manhattan DA's office on 34 charges, including felonies. And this is an historic. It was an historic day in the U.S., an historic time, and it's also really interesting too because, of course, Donald Trump is the presumptive candidate for the GOP nomination for president as he seeks a second term, and will theoretically be running against Joe Biden or another Democratic candidate in 2024. Let's just start with the arraignment yesterday and just the historic nature of that moment in U.S. history, because not only does it have implications for this former president, but it has major implications for this upcoming 2024 election, even just the primary ahead of us.
Yeah, I think the big picture, right, is that this is a historic day because we've never had a former president be indicted on criminal charges. I think we've had some that have come close. I think Bill Clinton back in the late 90s was under investigation for his false statements in a deposition, but nothing went as far as it has here with Trump. And I think too that you make a really good point that these two big stories, Trump's legal troubles and the 2024 campaign, are going to proceed in a way that's on parallel tracks, but they're going to affect each other, right? And I think that we can talk about this and dig a little deeper if you like, but the political ramifications and dynamics for the Republican primary are very, very different than they would be should Trump come out of that primary and be the general election candidate. I think that the implications, the impact of this case, and maybe others for that matter, are very different in those two elections.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting thing that I had heard in discussions. I was flipping through all the different news outlets locally and nationally yesterday as this was going on. And I don't recall exactly which outlet it was, but there was a really interesting discussion about what this means for the Republican primary in 2024, where Donald Trump is leading the polls at this moment. He hasn't exactly taken a hit despite these criminal charges and despite the arraignment. But when you think about getting into debate season in August and beyond that, and you think about potentially Mike Pence, potentially Ron DeSantis already in the race, is Nikki Haley, the former U.S. ambassador and a member of Trump's team when he was the president for a while as well. How do they address that in the Republican primary? Because on the one hand, it's something you can go at. It's something you can go at certainly as a negative against this candidate and his fitness for office, but at the same time, you are trying to win that Republican nomination. You're going to need that Trump backing to be competitive at a national level.
Well, his opponents are in a really tough spot, right? Because what we've seen just in the last couple of weeks, right, is that after it became pretty certain that some action was going to happen out of the DA's office, Trump's standing in the polls increased, right? And he has gained in his lead and polling lead over Governor DeSantis, who is, we should note, is not an announced candidate, but I mean everybody knows he's running for president. So Trump is really consolidating the party, at least a larger portion of it. And I think the pickle that these other candidates are in is that if they go after Trump, right, on this, that only helps him, and I think will drive voters to Trump. But at the same time, you make your point is that they need to draw contrasts and they need to give voters a reason for voting for them over Trump. I just don't think that this is the issue, and I think you've seen this right in just the last couple of days where you've got no fans of Trump coming out and questioning the charges that have been brought against him, challenging maybe that they are politically motivated. And we're not talking about the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world here. We're talking about Mitt Romney, who said something to the effect of, look, I don't think Trump is fit for office, but these charges are bogus. And even folks here in Michigan, right? Former Congressman Justin Amash, former Congressman Peter Meyer. Again, no fans of Trump have said that they don't think that there's anything that behind these charges other than political motivations, right? So even when you've got detractors of the former president coming out and saying that they don't think that there's anything here but politics, I think that's something to take note of.
It's It's the old strategy of Trump's, I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and my poll numbers aren't going to change. It seems to be that's the case here. You mentioned Mitt Romney. His statement yesterday quoted, I believe President Trump's character and conduct make him unfit for office. Even so, I believe the New York prosecutor, in this case it's Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, has stretched to reach felony criminal charges in order to fit a political agenda. You meant between the other presumptive Republican candidates and those such as Nikki Haley who have actually declared their candidacy for presidency, they can't touch this because if they do, they're going to lose their polling standing, which is already well behind Donald Trump at this time. But for Trump, it's a distraction as he goes through this process while also running for president once again. But ultimately, when it comes down to polling, when it comes down to votes, could this actually be a win for Donald Trump, actually having been charged with these crimes and had the spectacle of going into the Manhattan DA and going into the court yesterday, having that on national TV, on worldwide TV coverage in the news? Could that be a win for him politically?
Absolutely, right? And we've seen that. I'll give you two examples, right? Number one, we talked about his rise in the polls in the last week or so. Whether or not that remains is another question, right? But he has seen an uptick in his support. He's also raised a bunch of money for his campaign in the last week or so. $8 million, right? I mean that's a drop in the bucket. What he needs to run successfully for the White House, but that's an indicator, right? That people are flocking to him in some circles of the GOP, and it's really this is all playing right into his wheelhouse, right? He is the king of earned media in politics these days, and it's like that old PR saying, right? Any PR is good PR, right? Or any mention is a good mention, even when you're arrested, right? I mean, so in Trump's case, right? So it absolutely helps him in the primary, but that script is totally flipped when we're talking about the general, because I think that while this is something that will help him in his quest to secure the Republican nomination, it absolutely is a drag when it comes to the general, right? I think that there are, even if all Republicans in the country vote for him, that's not enough to get elected. He needs independents, he needs persuadable voters. And I think that they're just done with it, right? That this spectacle, this circus is going to weigh on them in ways that a lot of them just say, look, I don't want any more of this. Enough, right? Let's get on to something else. I don't want to have to hear about Trump and his legal troubles and this and that and just that circus for 4 more years. I think it's going to be a huge drag should he become the Republican nominee.
Donald Trump, for context, 34 charges brought against him by the Manhattan DA's office, by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, 34 counts of falsifying business records under Article 175 of the New York State Penal Code.
On that, Tyler, right? Those 34 charges, felonies, right? It sounds really, really bad, yeah. Right? And it is, but. Folks from across the spectrum in the legal community have been scratching their head over some of this stuff, right? The New York Times, Washington Post. So it's not just Fox News, right? But there are people that are scratching their head over these charges, and can imagine what the Trump campaign will do if the charges are dismissed, or if he starts to win some legal battles, and he's just going to be able to go and say, see, I told you so. They were after me. They're out to get me. And that's just going to feed his campaign even more.
Yeah, it's all about fitting that narrative. That is the way that Trump goes about this information. It's not necessarily that he's throwing out scenarios that aren't entirely true. They may be partially true. They may be entire falsehoods. To some extent, but if it works with his narrative, it's going to be a positive for him in the long run, depending on how things draw out.
But he can claim right now that it's a witch hunt with no evidence, right? I mean, but if the charges are dismissed or he wins the legal battle, then it's true. right? I mean, to some degree. So it'll work in his favor. I think they're playing right into his hands.
Yeah, and that was something that was, I did recall here, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was a constitutional law expert that Fox News did have on during their coverage yesterday, who said before these charges were released, are these 34 charges that they're expecting, these over 30 charges that have been leaked as being what's going to be ultimately brought against Trump? Is this all going back from the Stormy Daniels case and the other also facing Donald Trump similarly for the hush money, or are these on different business means as well? Because if it's all 34 charges from that same case, it's that same basis for all this information. If something falls through on one, it's likely to fall through on a number of other of those. And of course, as you just said, Dave, politically, that's going to benefit Trump. On the other side of the aisle, we have heard, really been mum's the word on this matter, from the President of the United States to our local officials here in Michigan too. The Democrats don't seem to want to touch this at all. What do you believe is the motivation behind that, where you would think conventionally, if a former president of the United States, if the number one political figure in your opposing party is facing criminal charges, you're going to attack that?
Well, I think that Democrats know that while this will help Trump in the primary, they're fine with that, and they would welcome the chance to run against an indicted former president in the general election. I think Democrats think they can beat Trump in the general, and so they would welcome the opportunity to run against him, and they're not going to do anything to damage the path that we're on.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, where he also is a professor of political science, on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find more information on the Center for Civic Engagement and other Oakland University programs by visiting oakland.edu/CCE. Oakland.edu/CCE. Dave, before we let you go, anything else on this matter or other related things we haven't discussed, other angles we haven't discussed on the Trump indictment, how it might impact our politics, not just here in Michigan, but federally?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be just another example, another element of the tremendously polarized times in which we're living, right? This is going to, I've seen some hyperbolic comments from folks about how this is going to rip the country apart, and I think that that's overblown. But it's not good for our politics, right? I think that it's a tough day for the country to see a former president brought up on criminal charges, right? I think take Trump out of the equation, and I think that everybody would agree that it's a bad thing, right? If it wasn't Trump, it was somebody else, I think you'd see Democrats not necessarily disturbed, but disappointed that we're in this spot. Now, with some of the folks on the Democratic side, they've been clamoring for this day for years, right? And they finally got their wish. But in the end, be careful what you wish for, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what you get him on. It's whether or not that actually comes to fruition and you get a conviction in this case to ultimately put Trump behind bars and therefore put him in a really tough spot to get back into the White House as he aims to do. Dave, thank you as always for being with us today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Oakland.edu/CCE for more information on programs, events, and discussions through Oakland University's Center for Civic Engagement, as we are in an even more complicated 2024 election season following yesterday's arraignment of former President Donald J. Trump by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in New York. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. As always, you can keep up to date with us on our Megacast page and local news page on civiccentertv.com. I encourage you to stay with us on our local news page for weather updates throughout the day. We'll have on our homepage at civiccentertv.com a link to the National Weather Service's local updates and information for the West Bloomfield area, for our flagship area, where you can also put in your zip code at the top left-hand corner for weather updates throughout the day. Severe weather is expected to reach its peak over the next few hours. 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. is that tornado watch window as of now. So you're going to want to keep up to date on all of that. It's going to be a very complicated weather day here in southeastern Michigan, and a bunch of severe weather is expected. There's a ton of potential for enhanced severe weather in our local area. Highly encourage you, weather.gov/Detroit, and put in your zip code as well for even more localized information. Big thank you to each of our guests, Fred Hunter from Detroit P.A.L, and of course, Dave Dulio from Oakland University, as well as our crew, Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV, and our director, as always, at Master Control at Civic Center TV is Calvin Brown.